Hello YouTube. Have you been thinking about your next car but you're not sure where to park it? Or have you thought about putting in a car lift but you're not really sure if your garage is tall enough? My name is Keith, and here in Seattle, most people's garages are not that big. I have a 10-foot, 3-inch tall garage, and in this video I'm going to show you how we put in a car lift so I could put in my daily driver underneath and my sports car on top. Welcome to my garage. So this is my garage spot. My wife said I pretty much have to stick to this spot alone. Don't interfere with her side. This garage spot is 24 feet deep and about 11.5 foot wide. It's really the height which is the issue in stacking a car on top of each other. Well, we can't push the lift all the way to the back because, as you can see, there is a man clutter there. My wife did say I have to clean up the garage before I buy a car. I tried. I actually spent about 2 years doing that, and I made a little bit of a dent, but as you can see, there's still a really big mess. We're gonna need about 5 feet in the back of storage space, so that gives us 19 feet of length to work with, which is plenty for parking a car. And as we said, the big issue would be, do we have enough height to put in the lift, and how exactly are we gonna make this fit? The ceiling is exactly 10 foot 4 inches from the ground. The ground is actually slightly sloped just below 3 degrees from the wall over here all the way towards where the entrance is. This garage door is currently a traditional door. It's about 9 feet wide by 8 feet tall with an overhead lift master. The goal is to actually put a 4-post garage lift so that we can store another car above this Kia, and we're going to be putting in a fun weekend sports car, which luckily has a pretty low height, and we're going to make every single inch count so that this can fit. We measured everything exactly, so this Kia, which is going to be mostly driven on every day, this is going to be parked on the lower level of the lift, and this Kia is exactly 62 inches tall from the ground to the highest point on the roof, including the antenna fin. The lift is going to go right above that and only have a few inches of clearance, and then above that, the sports car, which I'm anticipating should measure about 48 inches, will sit on top. Let's review all the planning and measurements to make sure this works. If you have a tall garage with 14 feet or higher ceilings, then this doesn't matter, but if your garage is short like mine, then every inch counts. My recommendation for any of you tackling on a similar project is to measure things several times, maybe with a buddy, and triple check your math beforehand, otherwise it could end up to be a pretty expensive mistake. Okay, here is a simple drawing of my garage. The garage door is on the right, and I'll refer to this as the front of the garage. The back of the garage by the wall is on the left. Because of the water drainage slope towards the door, the ceiling height at the front of the garage measures 10 foot 4 inches, but only 10 foot 2 inches at the back where all my storage stuff is. Since the cars are parked right in the middle, we'll use an average of 10 foot 3 inches. Okay, let's start filling in how tall things will be. My Kia is on the bottom. The manufacturing spec says it is about 60 inches, but this is the first of several important lessons. You need to confirm your actual car because mine was definitely pretty close to 62 inches, and I confirmed this several times, and this is what I'm using. If I had used the 60 inches, this might not have worked. I looked at various lift options, and I'll talk about this later in my video, but my leading choice is the A+ Lift 8S XLT model. The thickness of the lift runway is a bit less than 4.5 inches, but with all lifts, there are screws and weld points underneath the runways, so I'm rounding up to 5 inches for thickness just to be safe. Most residential 4-post lifts can be safely assumed to have about a 5-inch thick runway. The Ferrari measures 48 inches and will be sitting on top. Now for basic math. 48 plus 5 plus 62 equals 115 inches. This is the total vertical distance of just all the hardware, but does not include everything yet in our measurements. We said our ceiling is 10 foot 3 inches, which equates to 123 inches. 123 minus 115 means we only have 8 inches of margin, which is really tight. This is where we need to start thinking about tolerances and scenarios for what might go wrong. The most important unknown is the lift lock height. 4-post lifts are great for long-term car storage, but their storage positions, the runways are not held up by the cables because over time those cables can stretch and wear out. Instead, lift posts have a series of metal blocks which are at preset heights, and the runways actually rest on these, and that is what holds up the car. That means that the storage rest height of the runways are actually at specific heights. Depending on the exact lock height of your lift, that will determine exactly how much clearance there is underneath the runway to comfortably fit in the lower car, and also how much clearance there is above the upper car to make sure you don't collide with the ceiling. Remember also that the higher you raise the lift, the more comfortable you will be standing up while getting in and out of the bottom car, because hitting your head on the metal lift is definitely a thing. Not speaking from experience, of course. This brings me to one of the most important reasons why I picked the A+ lift. I looked at the lock heights of different brands, including Benpack, Advantage lifts, Wildfire lifts, and it was hard to find the manufacturer's lock height information despite contacting those companies. A+ lift lists all of their lock heights. Some lifts have lock heights separated by about 5 inches apart. In my limited space where I only have 8 inches of margin, if I am forced to park the lift at a height that is the next level 5 inches higher or lower, that might make me really nervous. I like how A+ lift locks are about 4 inches apart because that allows better fine-tuning of exactly where the lift height will be. So if you look at this table, the 62 1/4 inch, the 66 1/8 inch, and the 70 1/8 inch all look pretty good. However, at these listed lock heights, I still need to verify where the actual height of the runway will be. Is the 66 1/4 inch the top of the runway, or is that the bottom and I need to add 5 inches of thickness? I reached out to the A+ lift company here in Washington and also asked another friend who has the same lift to measure the top of the runways at those lock locations just to confirm and make sure that the clearances will work. If you have a low garage ceiling, I would recommend everybody to take the time to check these details, as they can really make or break your project. Now, to make sure everything passed the eyeball test, I marked the expected heights on my garage wall. I've actually marked on the wall the heights of different things. So the bottom tape mark right there, that is 62 inches. And that is actually the height of this car to the very top of this car, including the fin. The ramp of the lift is a little bit shy of 5 inches, and it locks at specific interlocks. And so the second tape line right there is an approximation of 67 inches off the ground, or 66 inches, which is close to where one of the locks would be. And then I added another 5 inches for conservative measurements. We're confirming right now the exact height of the top of the ramp at the specific interlocks, but that middle line represents 72 inches off the ground, which gives plenty of clearance for the Kia to go underneath it. Now, assuming we're bringing in the Ferrari 488 Spider, which is 48 inches from the ground to the highest point, if you take 72 inches and you add 48, that brings us to 120 inches, which is that top line. The second unknown is whether the garage door will fit when it opens. When the existing garage door is open and sitting on the horizontal tracks, it measures 22.5 inches below the ceiling. The door itself is only 2 inches thick, but underneath there are metal roller assemblies, and that adds another 2.5 inches of height. This is a very standard amount of overhead in a typical garage door installation. If I were to put the 22.5 inches onto our drawing, this door will definitely run into the top car. The overhead garage door opener will also hit the top of the car. So we have to reposition the garage door higher in the garage and get rid of the door opener. This is known as a garage door high lift conversion. And we're going to do that first because if the door can't get high enough, there is no point in even putting in the car lift. We're going to start today by changing out the garage door and making it a high lift conversion so that the tracks are as close to the ceiling as possible. And we're going to be replacing this lift master with a side mount jack shaft opener right up there, so that we're gonna maximize every single inch. We're gonna be getting rid of that rail where the lift master is, and hopefully shortening the tracks because we don't have to lift the door as far into this garage. So that door is going to sit, hopefully, when all this is done, either over the sports car's hood, if I back in the car, or where it is in the back of the car, hopefully where there's a little bit more room. So it's really important to pick the right installer to do your garage high lift conversion, unless you're going to plan on doing it yourself. But for me, I wasn't, and I definitely noticed that a lot of the installers I spoke with, some of them claimed that they could do it, but it was pretty clear once I started asking them questions that they were not prepared to really do it. For example, some of them I asked how much height they can guarantee that they can lift the door by. One of them even told me they can give me 2 feet, and I had to show them that there wasn't even 2 feet of space above my existing door. So the company I picked, they actually have done many of these high lift conversions, and the people came out with custom-made springs and were very serious about making sure that the door was not only as high as possible, but that it was also going to be reliable. And at the end, they actually were able to even custom raise the back of the horizontal tracks a little bit, so it almost was slightly vaulted, so that by the time the door was lifted and raised, it was pretty much hugging right on the ceiling. And that's a real sign of somebody who's done a lot of these. The garage door is done, and look how close it is now to the roof. The door is 2 inches away from the ceiling, and the bottom of the rail, conservatively, let's call it 7 inches. Look at that distance that we gained. And look how neat this is. So there's the side wound opener hiding the spring, which is just behind that door. You can just see it right there. That's how little room there is. And these guys, special call out to Absolute Garage of Puyallup, Washington for this fantastic job. Okay, so now that the garage door has been lifted, it's time to put in the A+ lift. So I have marked on the ground using white tape, like there, and in the back corner, the posts for where the A+ lift 8S XLT posts will be. The height is not a problem because the posts only go a little bit shy of 8 feet and we have plenty of height. However, what about in terms of length? Well, in terms of the total length from the outer to outer distance of the posts, in terms of length, the lift is about 16 foot 1 inch. And then in terms of width, this way, it's 9 foot 4 inches. Now you gotta remember, the door is 9 foot wide. So we're gonna line up the center line of the lift right to the door to make it easy for us to get in and out of. And we will see whether or not we need to move it further back towards the back of the garage to make extra room for the ramps and to clear that guy when the car is lifted, and whether or not I need to actually clean up my mess or not. I think there'll be plenty of room. You can see even here, there's still a walkway, right? And so that's a good 5 to 6 feet back from the end of the wall. And so this is gonna be tight, but it's gonna work. There are many choices for 4-post lifts. For my situation, there were 3 main factors that guided the decision. First, I decided that this was clearly not something I was gonna do by myself. I was not gonna rent a hoist, a flatbed truck, and try to build something that weighs 3,000 pounds and possibly get injured. So I was limited to who can in my local area install a lift and what brands they carried. Some brands also quoted a lead time of several months, and other brands were immediately available. Second, I do not need to lift a super heavy car like a large truck that requires a 10,000 or 12,000 pound lift. Almost any lift has enough capacity for my cars, but what I did want was something with a wider distance between the posts to make it easier to park on a daily basis, specifically what manufacturers refer to as the drive-through width. This affects how much space you have between your posts and the widest part of your cars, usually the side mirrors, and I narrowed my choice to lifts that are wider than normal. But what a lot of people don't talk about, and I think is really important, is the location of the metal boxes that cover the pulleys next to the edge of the ramps. Some brands, these boxes stick up quite a lot and they can damage your tires. And I refer to this distance between the edge of the ramp and this box as the tire death distance. This picture shows how close my Ferrari is to the box of my lift. Even though the drive-through width is 99 inches and the Ferrari has a 77-inch rear track width, so I should technically have 11 inches of clearance on both sides, I really only have these few inches from this metal box. So if I had not bought the wide version of this lift, this could have been a nasty surprise. Finally, A+ lift is one of the cheapest reliable 4-post lifts available. My XLT model is approximately $3,500 at the time of this video, and compared to some competitors that cost more, I have heard that they are also quite reliable and have less post-install warranty repairs. At this point, I want to give a special shout out to Hydraulic Solutions LLC of Olympia, Washington. Sarah and her team really took care of me and provided top-notch customer service. I sent her dozens of questions during the project, and she personally delivered the lift to my house. Here are some pictures of their team putting together the lift, and it was all done within 3 hours. Finally, because I have very curious children, I also put this lockout over the lift button to make sure they don't play bumper cars. So the A+ lift is up and it is perfect. Right now I raised it and it is sitting on the locks. It is actually just above where I anticipated the clearance height for the Kia is, and it is just below where I anticipate that other blue line in the middle of the height where the Ferrari should be sitting at. So this is perfect. So if I measure from the top of this ramp, remember the Ferrari is about 48 inches tall, okay? So putting it up all the way to the ceiling, where are we at? 55 inches, so that is perfect. That gives us 7 inches of clearance on the Ferrari to raise and lower it. And then do we have enough room for the Kia? Well, if I were to hold it from the floor, this is sitting right at 66 inches, which is perfect because the Kia is about 62 inches. So we just got the Kia on top. This is for the times when I would want the sports car on the bottom. Dang, that is tight. Tight in the sense of not like tight cool, but I am tight on space. So we raised it up so that the lift is right now sitting on one level of locks. And the bottom has exactly 53 inches of clearance. The Ferrari says is about 48 inches. So hopefully it's gonna clear down to literally these little weld points and screws, okay? So I'm gonna show you how little room there is on the top. So we're gonna go up, and this is how tight that is. I'm gonna zoom in here just so you could see. That antenna has maybe an inch, 2 inches. Well, we're gonna now try putting the Ferrari underneath and also on top and see how that goes. So here are the two cars, the Ferrari 488 Spider on top as planned, especially for the winter months where it's not gonna be driven. It measures exactly 48 inches. We verified that on arrival to make sure that no crunchies happen when I raise it. And then there's the Kia on the bottom. And so you can see there's actually plenty of clearance. In fact, so much so that my wife, under the lift, she could just stand straight up without bonking her head. At the top of the Ferrari, there's still a good few inches for us to raise the lift as part of the necessary procedure to lower it. All right, so this is a video shot at the very top of my garage. And what we're gonna show is how close the Ferrari is gonna be from the ceiling when I raise it up so that it is at the highest lock level where I could get the Kia under it and comfortably get in and out of the Kia. All right, so we're gonna slowly raise this up. Okay, and then one more. That's the resting height of the Ferrari. We've got a good few inches. Now this is the part to lower it. To remember, to lower it, you have to actually first raise the lift, which should go to the same level so that the locks can disengage. Okay, so we're going to raise this just up a little bit. Alright, that's the highest point. And now we're going to lower it. And voila! We did it without denting the ceiling and without denting the Ferrari. So that was how I installed the lift in my 10-foot 3-inch garage. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. Have a good day.